Most of us, dieting started decades ago. We can tell the names of the diets. We can tell you how much weight we lost. We can tell you how much weight we gained back. And here's the question nobody ever asked. What did dieting cost you? Not from the pocketbook, not financially, but personally. How many vacations were spent worrying about food and what you were eating? How many
Mm.
family photos did you avoid because you didn't want to have a picture of yourself? How many Mondays did you promise you'd start over? How much energy, confidence, and joy have you sacrificed chasing a smaller body? Today, we're talking about the real cost of dieting, and it might be much higher than you think.
Why do we keep going back to quick fixes, even when we know they don't work? Welcome to the Coaches Hotline. Glucose, grit, and grace. Real talk with coaches, no sugarcoating.
We're here to help you ditch the diet cycle, stabilize blood sugar, and finally feel at home in your body.
Because health isn't about restriction, it's about freedom, energy, and confidence.
Let's dive in.
Welcome to Glucose, Grit, and Grace, the Health Coach Hotline. Today, we're talking about something that doesn't get discussed very often. When people talk about the diets they've been on and the way they've been eating and what they've been doing, they usually talk about whether it worked or not. Did they lose weight? Did they keep it off? What was their lowest weight? But today, we want to ask a different question. How much did dieting cost you? Because for many women, this isn't something that just started last year. It started in our 20s, probably in our teens, and then into our 30s and 40s. Some of us have decades of trying to fix, shrink, or control our bodies. And while we were focused on the number on the scale, we may have been losing something that was so much more valuable. So today, we're going to have an honest conversation about the emotional, the mental, and the social cost of dieting and what happens when we finally decide we're done in that way. But Amber, Elaine, when you hear the phrase, the real cost of dieting, what comes to mind?
Elaine, this hits hard because nobody does talk about the emotional toll that it takes, the mental toll that it takes, the spirals that we go on. Um, yeah, it brought up all the feels for me for most of my life I was struggling with. I can remember going to sleep crying because I hated myself so much. I just oh it
Yeah.
just this is gonna be a good conversation.
Yes. And I echo that as well. When I think of the real cost of dieting, I think about how closely tied my size and what I thought was my incapacity to be smaller was directly tied to my self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know for me, I missed out on a lot of life and dating because I fully believed that I was so big that no one would ever love me. And so I did not put myself out there, which is probably why I didn't end up, really like I met my husband when I was 40. And while I dated off and on, I was single for most of that time. And I can absolutely trace it back to how low my self-worth was because I had been so unsuccessful dieting.
Yeah. I mean, when do you think that started for you guys? I mean, what age do you think you guys were at when that started? I know for me, it was young. I mean, I remember going,
Mhm.
we went on one of the first vacations, formal vacations we took as a family, and I was 16. And I know it started before that.
Mhm.
But I was like, oh, I have to wear shorts and people are going to see me. And, all of this. So we were going to Colorado, close to the Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs. And I was so nervous about wearing summer clothes. I mean, I still remember that to this day.
Mhm.
So what do you guys think? When do you think that really started, or when are some of those memories of how young you were?
I just got this huge flash of when I was probably about 12 years old. And before puberty, you gain a little bit of weight because your body is starting to change and your hormones are changing. And I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I think I'm getting fat. I need to go on a diet. And I remember her looking at me and her laughing, not like meanly or out of spite. That's certainly how I took it. But she
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
just laughing because she's like, oh, I know what you're going through. You're going through puberty and it's not weight. But even, 10, 11, 12 years old, I was aware that my body was changing and I was looking different and I didn't like it. And so, and then, gosh, you were talking about not wanting to be in shorts or having people look at you. What I think happened to me is all through high school, when you start dating and everything, it really affected, like Amber was saying, it really affected the relationships that I had because I did not value myself enough to have people in my life that valued me enough.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was 10. I can trace it back to fifth grade, when friends would start mentioning the difference in my size compared to everybody else.
Mm,
My mom, my entire life had always been on a weight loss journey. And and I, being the firstborn, really emulated my mom and took after her. And so she was dieting. And then I started hearing at school things about my size. My softball coach pulled me aside and said, you'd run faster if you could just lose like 10 pounds. Um, and that really started that cycle of where I was constantly dieting. So it started young.
Yeah, and that's sad. I mean, when we think how young we were and how much that impacted how we felt about ourselves or how we did things or all of it. It's just really it's a huge emotional cost.
Hmm.
And we've kind of talked about some of that emotion, and you kind of talked about the self-worth, Amber, and how that really the way we feel about ourselves just has a huge impact on how we present ourselves and how we do things and stuff, and that body image.
Yeah.
So, did dieting make yourself so once we realize, hey, we need to do something, or that's what we're thinking, and then we go and look for these diets. I remember going to the library. I know I had to be driving, so I had to be at least 16 or 17 years old. And I remember going to the library and I found this book. It was my first liquid fast that I ever did. And so this had to be back in like the mid 70s. And I don't remember it had no protein in it. Well, maybe it had a little bit of protein in it. It had orange juice. Okay, we know what that is. It had non fat dry milk. It had, I think, maybe some eggs in it. And I don't remember, and that was it. And that's what you drank. So not only I'm lucky I didn't get sick from salmonella or something from eating raw eggs, but okay, we all know that milk, dairy is a carb. And orange juice, how sweet is that? How much sugar was I putting in my body using concentrated orange juice? Tasted like a creamsicle. It tasted great. But those are the things that I feel like I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. It tasted good, but did it really help me? It
No.
probably, made my cravings worse. And being 16 or 17, at start, we weren't allowed to date till we were 16. So, I was at that dating age and I wanted to make sure that I was going to be dating. All my cousins were dating. I needed to be dating too. So, there's that pressure of wanting to be like your cousins or your friends who have boyfriends and stuff, but then also feeling like you said, I'm not worthy of it.
Mhm.
So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I can remember similar things, drinking just lemon juice and water all day long because
Oh,
I heard that it would make you skinny. And literally, I was not eating. There was a time where probably it was a week and I really hadn't eaten unless my mom was like, they were really busy at the time. So I was, sometimes, dinner on my own and I would like go
yeah.
take a serving of what she told me to eat and I would just put it down the garbage disposal. So it looked like I ate, but I wasn't eating. And
No.
after about maybe 4 or 5 days of this, my sister was home and we were cleaning out the dishwasher, and I just fainted right on top of the dishwasher
Oh
from
my
not
gosh.
eating. And so, yeah, the harm we do, I mean, not even, gosh, not psychologically, there was a lot going on there, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and then just the harm, that I did to my body doing that. I don't know. It's the corset that Carrie
Mhm.
talks about. We just feel like we have to be smaller to be worthy. And I wasn't. And, or maybe I was at some point, I was. I look at pictures of myself and, I was not overweight, but I certainly had a vision of myself
Mhm.
not looking the way I wanted to look. And it just does something to your self-talk. It does something to your trusting yourself. It does something to
Mhm.
your self-image. It just tears you apart. And to think of so many years that I've lived that way, um, no wonder I came into this not loving myself,
Yeah.
you know? So, wow.
Yeah. Um, hmm. I Carrie at one point in time had had me count diets. There were 26 that I could name, and I had done many of them multiple times. Um, I know growing up, my mom and I both drank a lot of Slim Fast shakes pretty religiously. Um, I also got, and I don't know where I got it because I probably didn't Google it because that wasn't a thing. But when I was in high school, it was probably late middle school, early high school, I did the heart patient diet. Okay, I don't have a heart problem, but apparently I felt like I needed to do this diet. And so I made this cabbage soup, uh, and oh, it was awful, and it made the house smell gross. But then I also remember like having my dad grill up a whole bunch of chicken breasts, and I would just eat that, and so all of these like different like, oh my God, is this gonna work? Is that gonna work? And just kind of hopping from one thing to another.
Yeah, that chasing.
Yeah, absolutely. I also in high school was bulimic. And
Oh
I
no.
learned about bulimia on one of the 3 o'clock afternoon TV shows, like the talk shows and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I watched it and I was like, oh, that is a great idea. Now, that was not the point of the show. The show
Yeah.
was supposed to be a
Right.
cautionary tale, but
Right.
my
Mm,
disordered thinking, I took notes. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's how you do that.
mm.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, the cost and the mindset is just so far reaching. I mean, you really, I mean, anybody could look at that and just see desperation,
Yes.
and to have
Oh, that's a good
desperation
word.
at such a young age,
Yeah.
because it doesn't get better, right? It
Right.
just
Not
continues.
Right.
without work.
Exactly, exactly. Without something changing, that 40 years of dieting, it just consistently got worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think about how many times we jump from one thing to the other.
Mm,
You know, at one point, you know, I decided that, oh, well, you know what? I'm not as active at night as I am during the day because I'm in school or I'm doing this or I'm doing
Mhm.
that during the day. So let's just swap it up because dinner was a big meal for us when we were growing up. So from now on, I'm going to have dinner for breakfast, have my lunch, and then I always had a small breakfast. I'll have lunch for dinner or I'll have breakfast for dinner. This was my own thinking. This is like, oh, well, what can I do to fix this? And I thought, I'm just going to swap everything up and eat most of my calories early in the day so that I have the entire day to burn it off. Does that sound familiar?
hmm
So,
Mhm.
Yep.
it was nothing for me to fix, like you said, chicken breasts or whatever, and have a
hmm
salad and vegetables and potatoes and stuff like that for breakfast. And not that you can't have chicken and stuff for breakfast, but it was a huge meal that I would fix myself. So when we think about that and what that physically like you said, Amber, being
hmm
bulimic, the
hmm
physical cost on our body because of what we're thinking about. Think
hmm
about what happens to our energy, what happens to our muscles, especially. We all know
Mhm.
now what that does
Yes.
to us. What happens when we lose and regain weight, and what happens when we spend years under eating. And Elaine, you just had a prime example of what under eating did for you.
hmm
Mhm.
Well, and I think you brought up a really good point, Elaine. It's not what you were eating as much as why you were eating it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Like if you are choosing to have that in the morning because you're under the impression that you're going to be able to burn it off all day and eat less as the day progresses,
right,
that's a lot different than, where we're building these balanced meals to keep our body fueled. And we may have like chicken, as our first
right.
or second meal, but that intentionality and the why behind it, because that why is very emotionally charged when you're
Mhm.
doing it from a place of desperation for weight loss and not fueling your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and then we think about kind of the life cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Think about, and when I think of, there's so we're going through a cleaning out process and seeing all of these old pictures. And do you
Mm.
know how many pictures I look at and going, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I not in this picture?
Yep.
Where's the pictures of me? Not that I'm trying to be egotistical and think everybody should have pictures of me, but the point is, I avoided pictures. I was
Yep.
always the one taking them
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to be in them. So then I think about, well, what's my grandson's going to think? What about my kids and stuff at some point when they want to see pictures of mom when she was in her 30s or whatever? And there aren't any. So, you
Mhm.
know, the opportunities, what did we postpone, excuse me, what did we postpone because we thought I'm not good enough or I don't look good enough? What did we miss? So I don't know if you guys have some examples of that, like what we missed out on and stuff.
Yeah. I know I missed out on a lot of life. I know I did. And yeah, I also have very few pictures of me. And, you know, I would just like to know like what I looked like back then, or, have that memory of what was going on in my life. And we do that through photos.
Yeah.
And I always had people stand in front of me. Um, and now, so I sing in a choir. And I still like it's still natural for me to want to have people in front of me. I'm one of the shorter people in the choir. So I always get put up front. That is
Was
the most uncomfortable
pictures.
place
Yeah.
for someone who's been dieting for 4 decades to stand, and who's
Yep.
actively been avoiding pictures. Like that still is like a you know.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I missed out on so much life just not thinking that I deserved it because I was
Yeah.
not the right size.
Yeah. I can't think of anything like specific that I missed out, but when I look back,
Hmm.
I feel like I missed out on a lot of joy and a lot of happiness and a lot of
Or,
peace
Yes.
and a lot of things that I embrace now and that I live and that are so much a part of my life now because of what I've learned through the 100 days and the programs that we teach, and what I've learned about myself. I missed out on a lot of love. I couldn't give love, I couldn't receive love. And so for me, certainly, there were times that all my friends in college would go out, but I never wanted to, and so I would stay home and I would just say, well, it's because I'm an introvert. But it was probably because I didn't love myself, right? I didn't like how I looked, I didn't like how I was. Um, I feel like I mean, I don't, all of that experience brought me to where I am now. And I'm so much
Hmm.
happier now that I can't disparage that experience. But gosh, just think about how much different things would have been for me had I known what I know now.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree. I mean,
Yeah.
how much different things would have been. Who knows? I mean, like I don't regret where my life has turned where I'm at right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, would things be a little bit different? Just a little bit? Who knows? I don't know.
Hmm.
And I again, I'm happy with my life right now, and I am a firm believer that things happen when they're supposed to happen.
Agreed.
At the same time, um, I don't shy away from things anymore. I will wear shorts. We're starting to warm up here. I will wear shorts now. I usually wear like skirts or whatever they call them now. But anyway, I embrace that, and I'm so much happier and having so much more fun. So
Mhm.
Hmm.
anyway, so what we really want women to know, if you could sit down with your younger self, what would you tell her?
That she's a good person, that she is worthy because she exists, not because
Hmm.
she's a certain size.
Right.
Um, and, just from a real um, physiological standpoint, when you are trying to make yourself smaller through any means necessary, you're actually doing some long-term damage.
Yeah.
Um, and then teaching her the healthy way to do it. Because I grew up thinking that that skinny meant healthy. And that if I
Hmm.
wasn't skinny, I clearly wasn't healthy. Um, and then so helping her redefine what health actually is.
Yeah. How about you, Elaine? What would you tell your younger self?
I think I would just give her a big hug and tell her it's going to be okay.
Hmm.
Oh,
Just give her some hope.
Hmm.
yeah. But I think too, I think part of it is, and we're not thinking about that when we're younger, think about your health. That's to
Mm.
me now, it's like, how is this going to impact my health if I do this? So, will
Right.
I go bungee jumping? Probably not, because I don't feel like that's a healthy thing for me to do. But I am going to plan the trips because it's okay to do that. I can still have some of the what we kind of equate to the food on vacations and stuff. But I
Hmm.
also know that I can pair it with a protein and a fat and have my carbs with it because typically the vacation foods that we like are carbs.
The carbohydrates,
um,
yeah.
I can pair that and I can still have it and be satisfied and join in with what everyone else is doing. So, kind of think of it that way. Is this healthy for me? Is this something? And not worry about what your image looks like. So, I guess that's what I would tell my younger self, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing is for me, don't wait to live your life.
Hmm.
Mm.
Don't think about, but when. If you've got an opportunity to do it, take it because you're going to regret not doing it. So, anyway. All right. I know that's heavy, but I think there's a lot of good nuggets there. I know. I know. So, I think one of the biggest lies that we've been told is that life starts when you reach your goal, when we lose the weight, when we fit into the jeans, when we look a certain way. And if dieting has taught us anything, it's that chasing a smaller body doesn't automatically create a bigger life.
Hmm.
What creates a bigger life is showing up, being present, taking care of yourself, trusting your body, and refusing to let your joy be on hold for any longer.
Hmm.
If today's
Mm.
conversation resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
What has dieting costed you? And more importantly, what are you ready to stop sacrificing? Until next time, remember that progress isn't perfection, it's simply taking the next step. So be sure and share this with your friends, family, whoever you think may need to hear this. If they're giving up things or not participating in the joy, send this to them. See if maybe it can help. With that, we'll see you guys next week and have a wonderful week. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.